This episode is just to help you troubleshoot those plateaus or lack in progress, whether it's weight loss or muscle strength or just that energy, feeling good, right? All of these goals that we have when it comes to trying to work towards better overall whole body health and wellness. We want to make sure, especially if you're taking the time, if you are taking the time to exercise and get out and move your body or go to the gym or take the hikes or go swim, and you're trying to be careful of what you're eating and you're just not seeing any progress, then this episode is to help you troubleshoot that a little bit. Hey, I'm your host, Dr. Desiree Cassell. I'm an orthopedic and pelvic floor physical therapist specializing in women's health, aka pelvic floor. I'm a wife, mom of 3, foodie, lover of all things movement and nature, and I'm super passionate about educating, empowering, and supporting other women like you to find and maintain balance throughout all aspects of their lives, without pain, pressure, or peeing their pants. And this is the Balanced Momtality Podcast, where we will talk about all things pelvic floor, your core, and optimizing your pregnancy, birth, and postpartum recovery, providing you with the knowledge and tools so that you can feel like the strong, playful, and happy mom that you and your family deserve. Now let's get you out of those pads and back to loving movement. Fill up your water, pop in those AirPods, roll out your mat, and let's connect. Before we start today's episode, just a quick disclaimer that anything mentioned in this podcast is not meant to treat or diagnose any medical conditions. If you have any questions or concerns about your healthcare needs, please seek the care of your medical provider. This is also a safe space where we will be talking about very sensitive but important topics, such as issues with peeing and pooping, relationships, and even sex. So if you have littles around, probably a good idea to pop those AirPods in. But otherwise, I hope you enjoyed today's episode. Hey, we're back. It is another week on the Balanced Momtality Podcast. So happy you are here joining me today, and I hope that you love checking out my show every week. And if you do, please take some time to leave a 5-star review, especially if you're on iTunes. This really just helps me be more visible for other women, because this is information everybody needs to know. If you have been paying attention with my podcast recently, I have had a few episodes come out about bladder pain and constipation and getting on top of some of those issues and how they can be impacting your pelvic floor and even causing some of your pelvic floor symptoms. So check those out if you haven't. They are super, super packed with lots of tips and just insight into your body and overall health and wellness, which is so important. But I wanted to touch in today because I've been having this conversation a lot, as I say in all my other podcasts, because it is kind of what instigates what topics I talk about. And so with that being said, if you also have a topic that you want me to chat more about and you haven't really heard me talk much on it, please go join my Facebook group, the Balanced Momtality Wellness and Support, and let me know there a topic that you want more information on, and I would be happy to make an episode for you. This episode, though, is just to help you troubleshoot those plateaus or lack in progress, whether it's weight loss or muscle strength or just that energy, feeling good, right? All of these goals that we have when it comes to trying to work towards better overall whole body health and wellness. We want to make sure, especially if you're taking the time, if you are taking the time to exercise and get out and move your body or go to the gym or take the hikes or go swim, and you're trying to be careful of what you're eating and you're just not seeing any progress, then this episode is to help you troubleshoot that a little bit, because it can be so frustrating, especially if you're taking the time, and then especially if you're getting on a scale and the weight is your goal. You're trying to drop that number on the scale. I've had an episode on this in the past, so I'll probably link it in these show notes, and if that is your goal, please go listen to that episode. And I'm just going to give a little brief synopsis from it, because that scale and the number, when you step on that stupid thing, will sabotage you. It will be the reason why you fail, because so many reasons could be happening for why that number is going up. It doesn't mean you're necessarily gaining fat, especially if you're strength training. We know muscle weighs more than fat. So if you are lifting heavy weight and you're trying to get stronger, do not pay attention to the scale. It will throw your mind for a loop and you'll be like, well, what's even the point? But I have a lot more tips inside that other episode I mentioned, so please go check it out. But if we're thinking about those goals again, whether it is weight loss or muscle mass strength changes or just fitting better in your clothes or feeling better and having more energy, having more of a positive mental outlook, all of these things should be getting better if we are doing the right things in our routines. So let's just say you are going to the gym, you are working out, you're pretty mindful of what you're eating. So what could be going wrong? So first, I'm just going to dive into like the most obvious one, right? Diet. So maybe you are paying attention to what you're eating, but are you really paying attention to the right things? Many of us are tracking calories. That's usually what they're thinking is, I need to get under 2,000 calories and it's calories in and calories out. That's what's important. I need to make sure I'm moving and not eating too much. But that can also be the reason for your lack of progress, frankly, and your sabotage. Because if you're exercising more, your body needs more nutrients. It needs more building blocks to repair the muscle that you've torn down as you're exercising, to repair any inflammation and tissues that were strained during even just cleaning your house and walking, and especially heavy exercise. We need more nutrients, not less. So while calories are important to some extent, we're not just going to say ignore calories and eat as much as you want. That's not the goal. But let's maybe take our priority and like our view off of that number, off of the scale, the number on the scale, off of the number of calories you're eating, and let's instead focus on getting whole foods in our diet. So that's a great thing to start if you're getting some processed foods or if you're eating protein bars all the time and protein shakes. While I do think those are great options to supplement our diet and our protein intake especially, they should not be your main consumption and food source. So making sure you're getting in whole foods and a balanced plate, right? So this means we're getting in a good amount of protein, a nice healthy whole grain or complex carbs, so whole grains or fruits and vegetables, oats and lentils, all great grains, quinoa, amazing, white brown rice, right? Like a nice whole grain, and then a healthy fat. So nice healthy fats with omegas in them can be such a game changer for how your body metabolizes, your brain health, your mental state, so many great things with those healthy fats. So think walnuts, think salmon, think avocado, using olive oil, avocado oil, healthy fats. And so color is the other thing we really like to think about when adding a balanced plate. And I did mention fruits and vegetables in the carbs, but when I'm building a plate, I want to make sure my biggest piece is protein and color. So I'm getting protein and fruits and vegetables, which are carbs. So there's some carbs, and then we can add in a healthy fat, especially if we haven't been getting enough of that in. But just start making sure you're getting in some fruits and vegetables and a more balanced plate. But protein, with that diet piece, protein is huge. And I've had a whole episode on protein, so you can also check that out. But protein is something that especially women, as we are aging and as our hormones are shifting and as we're exercising, protein is crucial, and most of us are not getting enough. So I always tell my patients to wake up and first thing at breakfast, shoot for 20 to 40 grams of protein at breakfast. And then at every meal, you're shooting for 20 to 40 grams at every meal. And even in your snacks, you're shooting for 10 to 20 grams every snack. So ideally, you're getting anywhere from 100 to 150 grams of protein a day, and even more for some of those people who have really big muscle mass strength training goals and they're lifting heavy and they're putting in the work, right? So that's where that output of all their heavy work requires more caloric input to replenish the body. Because what happens when we're not fully replenishing our body with protein and other nutrients is our body goes into a state of stress. So we will actually be in a state of inflammation, which means we'll hold on to food, we'll store it as fat because the body thinks we're starving it, and it's not going to have enough building blocks to actually build the muscle. You're going to start seeing more fat and less muscle when you're not replenishing well with your diet. So let's make sure that even if you are trying to be aware of your diet, make sure your protein intake is up enough and that you are getting those balanced plates and whole foods in your meals. So obviously, diet could be its whole episode, but diet is that most obvious piece of why you might be plateauing and trying to take out the little snacking here and there. And that's where if you're really adding protein and having a nice nutrient-dense meal and snack, it'll reduce all of that desire and need to snack, especially towards the end of the day. If you're just feeling hungry all of a sudden and you can't stop snacking and munching, you're probably not giving your body enough protein and other nutrients throughout the day to sustain. And it's, again, just not sustainable. So then you go to the end of the day and you start eating just one cookie, okay, maybe two, maybe three, maybe you eat 2 or 3 servings of dinner, right? So let's just start looking at some of those extra snacking foods. Are they nutrient dense? Add some peanut butter to the apple, eat some trail mix, add Greek yogurt to things. It's super great protein source. So again, just analyze your diet a little bit and we'll see how that changes and gets you out of a state of feeling like you have no energy or in a bad mood, right? We want to feel good, and our diet is such a huge foundational block because we know our gut health, and science is really looking so much at that gut-brain axis and how much it impacts mental health, depression, anxiety, causing autoimmune conditions. Just that inflammatory state in our body is really controlled by what we're putting in our body and how our body is processing it, right? So we need to be paying attention to that. But another thing that could be causing you to plateau and not really see much progress is you're not adding recovery days. You're not taking those rest days. And it can, again, seem so counterintuitive when we're thinking, I need to move more, do more. But especially for my women who are starting to go into perimenopause and or menopause, our bodies are in a different state and they're frankly a little more tapped out. There's less of a threshold there to handle stress. And so if you keep adding more and more exercise and you're like, why is the scale just continuing to rise? Why do I still feel blah? It's probably because you're doing too much. And again, your body is staying in a state of stress, holding on to what you eat, making you feel like crap, giving you cravings for sweets and unhealthy fatty foods, and also just not giving you the motivation or drive to give it your all when you are exercising. So it's not always more is better. In this case, we actually want to prioritize rest days. So give your body a day off in between, at least a muscle group, right? So if you're going to the gym every day, that's fine. And honestly, strength training is the best because cardio and high intense cardio, HIIT training, biking, swimming, running, all of these cardio activities are more stressful on our system. So things like strength training and even walking are beautiful because we're getting a lot of muscle engagement. We're pumping fluid through our body. We're getting circulation through our body, but it's not going to put your system at such a state of stress. Now you might feel super sore from strength training. And so that's where we want to pay attention to that soreness because a certain amount is normal, obviously. And as you work out, you might notice that goes away and you're not really sore as easily, but paying attention to that because if you're sore a little that day or even the next day, that's okay, but it shouldn't reduce your function. So if you can't really walk because you're so sore and you have a hard time sitting on the toilet or it lasts longer than a couple days, then you did overdo it or you didn't replenish your body. So making sure you are eating some nice protein snacks after your workouts to again replenish, but that you're also giving recovery and rest to those muscles so they can rebuild and have the capacity to really work for you at their best when you do work out. So if you're going to the gym every day, trade muscle groups. So this is why you hear a lot of people that do weightlifting have an upper body day and a lower body day, or a glute and quad day and a back and chest day, right? Like we want to give the muscle groups a break, but you do also want to come back to each muscle group a couple times a week. So just starting to scatter that and look strategically at what muscle groups you're working on and giving it a rest day before you attack that muscle group again can be crucial. But especially if you're noticing like, I didn't sleep very well, I haven't eaten very well, then you want to make sure you are taking into account how much you're stressing your body with exercise, because even though it is healthy and great for us, it's still a stress in our body. So we need to make sure we are really thinking holistically in our stress state of our body, because ultimately that's why we don't progress. That's why we see these plateaus, is because the body is tapped out. So it's not metabolizing well. It's holding fat. You're not getting the energy you want. And so we need to make sure we are looking at how can we take away that stress in the body. Diet is one. Fueling yourself, giving yourself rest and recovery days, and that leads into sleep. Sleep is such a huge piece for our health and for our body to rest and recover and regenerate so many of the things that we broke down that day and get the capacity to move and be there for you turned on the next day. So if you are sleeping poorly, that in itself can be why you're not progressing well. So we need sleep to really, really get the most out of our days, obviously, but especially our workouts. So make sure, especially as women, we do need a lot of sleep. 8 to 10 hours, actually, a study just came out. So just that 8-hour mark isn't even really enough for us, which is kind of annoying, right? Because it's even hard to hit 8 hours. I know, especially for moms that have little ones that are getting woken up a lot. It's like we are excited to get 5-6 hours of sleep. Thankfully, I'm kind of beyond that state now. I usually hit 7 to 8 hours, but on days where I really get like a solid 9 or 10 hours, wow, do I feel like a whole other woman when I wake up. And so just start looking at that sleep and your sleep hygiene, sleep habits. Are you getting high quality, good sleep? And if not, let's start with a good bedtime routine, wind everything down, get away from the phone, do some breath work to calm your nervous system, take some nice magnesium glycinate that really helps calm the system and helps improve sleep, and let's make sleep solid for you, because that is the basic foundation of our health. And if we're not getting good sleep, everything else starts to go awry, okay? So that is a huge one. But so we touched on diet, we touched on rest days, we've touched on sleep, but also water. So water intake is huge here because we need that as the flexibility in our muscles, the resiliency in our muscles. That hydration in our cells is crucial. It helps our gut have better healthy bowel movements, helps our gut absorb better, helps our bladder stay nice and healthy, our muscles stay nice and flexible. And so making sure you're getting half your body weight in ounces of water is really that basic foundational line of water intake that you should be getting in. And if you're exercising, that number needs to go up. If you're out in the sun sweating, that number needs to go up. If you're breastfeeding or pregnant, that number needs to go up. So make sure your water intake is on par to help supplement all of the sweat loss. And with that, you need to make sure if you are sweating a lot, that you're adding electrolytes into your water. And this doesn't mean go drink Gatorades all the time, because they just have such a high sugar content that it really combats that electrolyte benefit. So simply just putting some sea salt in your water and a little lemon is a perfect electrolyte drink. Have it once a day, a couple times a day if you're super active and sweaty, but making sure you're replenishing those electrolytes so that your muscles again have that capacity to contract and relax when and how you want them to, because that's the basic foundation of our muscles. If we don't have the right electrolyte balance in our body, we see so much muscle cramping, fatigue. You can even get to headaches and heart issues. It's just not worth it. So make sure you're drinking plenty of water and adding in electrolytes. But the other thing I really wanted to note here is stress. I already mentioned this, but this is the more obvious stress. This is, I'm having a stressful day. I just found out some bad news from my family. Work is super stressful. It's those actual obvious stressing moments, right? Or if you just feel like you're someone that has anxiety and stress, this adds to that threshold of stress in your body. I like to think of everybody's body and our nervous system especially, and that inflammatory threshold as a bucket, because everyone does come into this world with their bucket already a little full to some level. Maybe it's just a little bit, maybe it's half full, and you know those people, they're really very sensitive, maybe they are anxiety or they have some of those more stressed out tendencies like ADHD, OCD, depression. You know, we want to keep an eye on that, but even for people that feel like they're not very stressed, but they aren't sleeping well, they aren't eating very well, and then they all of a sudden did have a stressful moment happen at work or whatever. Now their bucket is pretty full. So you go and do one hard workout and it just tips that bucket over, and it causes pain or inflammation, or can cause autoimmune conditions to flare up, gut issues. So we need to make sure that we are trying to constantly empty that bucket of things that we have control over. Because let's face it, our society and our pressure these days is constantly go, 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 and that is stressful. And so that can put us in a state of stress, make you breathing more shallow, make you want to eat the sweet foods and just cozy and be comfy, and it can lead to a downhill spiral. So we need to stay on top of that by getting enough sleep, drinking enough water, eating enough healthy foods, doing things that bring us joy, and helping empty all of that stress in the bucket, so that there can be a day where you don't sleep well and it doesn't cause pain, or you can eat unhealthy for a meal or two and you don't have bad gut issues. And then if we're watching these foundational pieces of sleep and our diet and giving our body rest and enough protein and water, you should find yourself losing the pounds, gaining the muscle mass, improving your mood and mental state, having the energy to keep up with all of the things. And there are so many diet nuances that can help increase all of this as well, and different fitness and exercise routines that can cause more strength gain and hypertrophy and all of that kind of stuff. But this is just an episode to get you really thinking about, how are you recovering and taking care of your body? What type of exercise are you doing? Are you doing too much? Are you adding too much stress because of the types of exercise you're doing, or how often you're doing them? Let's really analyze and audit that whole wellness of your system and your lifestyle to see what we need to tweak to really get you out of that plateau and reaching those goals that you're so eager and motivated to reach. And I am here to help support you in navigating and dissecting any of the pieces I talked about today. I do this with my patients regularly. We are always checking in. You know, I have patients come in wondering why they have a flare up. We're going through all of these things, or people that are just stuck and they're not seeing that progress. We need to look at these foundational pieces. And so reach out to me if you have any questions. Go join the Balanced Momtality Wellness and Support Group. You can also post questions there. I will answer anything you got over there. Or again, get on a wellness consultation with me so we can do a more individualized assessment and create a plan that's really going to be for you and your body and your goals and your needs. I hope this episode just got you thinking a little bit, and I am so thankful that you joined me and listened to this whole episode. I hope it got you inspired to just do a little audit of all of these pieces of your health and see where you need to start tweaking things to really see those goals come closer and closer and well within reach. Stay tuned for next week on the Balanced Momtality podcast. Can't wait to see you there. Well, that's it for today's episode. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did, and I want to thank you so much for taking the time out of your busy day. I know you've got so many other important things going on, but I hope it was helpful and you leave here with some tools to help you in your healing journey. And I just want to ask you, if you have found this helpful, to please leave a review on iTunes. Scroll down to the bottom of my podcast page and leave that 5-star review so it can help other women see this information. And also, if you want to be a part of my community of amazing women trying to balance all the things, great tips and insight and sharing stories and just motivating each other along the way, feel free to join my Facebook group, The Balanced Momtality Wellness and Support. I hope to see you here next time on the Balanced Momtality podcast.